Losing My Wife. That is the title of this, Losing My Wife. He posted this in the marriage subreddit. A lot of times when men tell these stories, they are unreliable narrators. I'm going to read through his post. Just listen. Just listen for the things that he is adding or maybe omitting. Let's go ahead and listen to this post. He says, so I'll go ahead and say it. It's my fault. I've been married to my wife for 10 years. We have 3 kids, 8, 6, and 2. So 3 very young kids. They're all under the age of 10. At times where our kids get loud or high tension, I shout from upstairs and tell them to be quiet, as a couple of times a week I'm working from home and it's hard to concentrate. Not that it forgives my actions. I've not physically been violent towards them. The bar is in hell. It's down in Satan's pantry. As this happened a number of times over the years, I can understand my wife has endured this action. It happened a couple of weeks ago. It happened again a couple of weeks ago, which was followed by a message she sent me 2 days later whilst I was at work telling me she'd had enough and she doesn't love me anymore. I'm distraught. That same morning, just a couple hours earlier, I'd actually thought it was enough myself. I started looking online at options to fix my issue, from counseling support through to anything else. I'm sure that that's a little jumbly right there. We've talked a bit really each day about it, and she just keeps saying it's too late and she's lost the love. I personally still love my wife very much. Yesterday we talked and she has the idea to stay at her family home, which is super close to us, with the kids a couple of days a week, and the rest of the week at our home with the kids so she can see my change. It seems like a hope that, yes, I can show a change, but I can't help but feel it's a buffer until our youngest starts full daycare next April, so she can go full-time to work and maybe earn money enough to support herself more and make the move. Our house is our own that we built 2 years ago. She talks a lot to her boss, a guy, all the time, and says there's no interest there. And she says she has one male friend that she talks to all the time about me and the situation we're in. And whilst she says there's no interest from her to pursue anything with him at this time, I can't help but be a typical guy and think maybe he could be saying things to push her away from me. I literally started talking to a free phone support company that listens and offers counseling since yesterday. But I just like a truck, but I just feel like a truck has driven into my guts, and I feel lost and just feel like it's too late. I asked her today, we both talked calmly, that when we're in a good place, if there were any other things that make her sad. She said mainly that maybe we don't go enough places all together as a family, not holidays, but just say weekends for a day out. I know whatever answers come from anyone out there will say it's early and she needs space, and I'm happy to try the split time option she suggested. But please, people with experience, ideas, help, or anything else, share with me, because right now I'm just breaking apart here with the feeling she's already out. Thanks for reading. I love how he threw in right here about these 2 guys that she's talked to, her boss and this guy friend. I love that, to imply that she's already kind of monkey branching a relationship, even though he acknowledges that this is his fault. And he says this happened a number of times over the years. She didn't just fall out of love with this man. She didn't. And then at the end, he asked her, is anything else making her sad? And she says, we don't go anywhere. We don't do anything as a family. She said, we might do things for the holidays, but we don't do anything. So he's focused on his work. It's high pressure. He hollers, and they don't go anywhere. And she has 3 young kids under 10 years old. The fact that she went to her family's place and sent this message, she thought about this. She's tired of this, and she is done. These men don't listen when women say things, and this, you could tell, he is an unreliable narrator. He led with, it's my fault, because he wants to look like he is taking responsibility. But then he threw that stuff about the other men in there because he wants us, the readers of this, to feel bad for him and then make us think that she's the bad guy. She has 3 kids under the age of 10. And she's not working right now. So it sounds like she's a full-time homemaker. This woman doesn't have time to cheat. Why these people even remotely want to act like that is ridiculous to me. Anyways, that's what I say. I do want to know what you think about this. I think that he has lost his wife, just like he said in the title. He's lost his wife. I agree. She is gone. By the time a woman leaves physically, which she is part-time, she has already broken up with him mentally. She was just waiting for the time to leave. And their youngest is 2 years old. Yes, he is absolutely right. Soon as she can put that child in daycare, she's putting that child in daycare and she's about to start working again. That's the reason why she's staying connected to her boss. This dude is crazy, but he already knows that she's gone. Impressive Peak says, 3 kids under 10 is an unbelievably high pressure and difficult job. She's never yelled at or been frustrated at them. This doesn't sound like the real reason. Why it's probably good to seek counseling if you feel it'll help you. Yelling at the kids occasionally cannot be the reason. You're either downplaying what has happened or she isn't telling you the truth. Her admitting to talking to several men about you and your relationship is definitely a red flag to me. How close is she with these guys? Is it possible she has a romantic interest? Truthfully, that seems more likely to me. And the treatment of those kids is a poor attempt at gaslighting to make you believe you are the problem. See, these comments are going to be kind of all over the place, I think. So the husband says, but take into account my shouting loudly has happened numerous times over the years, maybe like once or twice a month. This dude knows he's the problem. And then he says that must build up. It absolutely does build up. She's clocking all of that. Bored Zucchini says, you're not telling the truth. Foreign Leg says, I can't believe someone would feel so guilty for that. Any Skill says, everybody shouts at times. That's normal. Objective Salt says, yeah, but there are people out there who internalize it and can't let it go until it builds up to a numbness that's irreversible. Then they check out and the other person self-destructs. That's been my past 10 years. It absolutely can build up. You try to keep a strong face for your kids. You try to just push through it. But he admits that this is happening monthly, a couple of times a month. He is absolutely the problem. Ruthless Bunny says, it's all of that. A violent temper is scary. Punching holes in the wall, stamping your feet is all terrifying. Let me challenge you. How many times do you do this with non-family members? Or better yet, with people higher up than you? It's really easy to bully a McDonald's counter person. Do you lose with your boss? And here's the OP saying, the shout and the stamp of the foot has been the extent of it. And it's only at home in these situations. So he's only bullying his family. And so that's what Quirky Friendship says. So it's only at home that you can't control your temper. Why do you save that type of action for the people you are supposed to love the most in the world? Exactly. Because he knows that he can bully them because the men in the home, they are a demigod. They can do what they want. Outside in the world, they have to treat people like humans. Better Obligation says, this is the key. I'm a counselor in a men's batterer intervention program for court-ordered perpetrators of DV or CPS cases. The fact that you're only losing your temper at home tells me that you do have some, I would say a good deal of control over your anger outbursts. If not, you would be blowing up at everyone, at work, at the store clerk, at the waitress who gets your order wrong, etc. But you're not. You're able to keep yours together, for lack of a better term, when it matters to you. So tell me, why doesn't it matter to you to keep it together for your family? You're able to do it. You've clearly shown that you're self-capable. In anger management, one of the most valuable skills we teach is the timeout. When you're feeling like you're about to explode and lose your it's time to take a healthy timeout. Excuse yourself politely, take 10, 15, 20 minutes, however long you need to calm down, and come back and finish the conversation or do whatever you were doing. During that timeout, do some breathing exercises. Box breathing, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise as a short guided meditation. I highly recommend that you enroll in an anger management program ASAP. In the meantime, there's a great workbook I supplement my curriculum with called Dialectical Behavior Therapy Skills for Anger by Alexander Chapman and Kim Gratz. It has a reddish cover. You can get it on Amazon. While I do think your anger is the core issue here, I am concerned about your wife's relationship with the other Ben. Focus on the anger issues first and foremost because they are affecting your children as well. But I have the feeling that her relationship with at least one of the men may not be as innocent as she is letting on. I hope this is helpful. I hate it when people, like he said, he threw in those men as a red herring. He did that on purpose to keep people looking at that. The issues are his anger and the fact that he is only doing this because he's working from home a couple of times. The fact that these people are buying it, that this woman may have some kind of romantic interest in these men is ridiculous to me. Anyways, this next person says, gee, you are simplifying things. The person that wrote that comment did not oversimplify things. I thought that it was a well fleshed out comment until that person got to the point of saying she might have some interest in those men. Anyways, I want to know what you think. Join the conversation. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.
When did you know that you were the default parent? For my best friend, it was when her daughter was turning 1 year old and her husband looked at their little baby and her little tiny little fingernails and he said, wow, isn't it incredible? They've never grown this entire year. We've never had to cut them. And she was like, sorry, what?
For many of these dads, parenting, it doesn't impact their life. Their day-to-day doesn't change. They have their orgasm. They be like, look at this that I made. But they can opt in or opt out of parenting. They don't have to pay attention to anything. They don't have to worry about the details of anything. Their lives really don't have to change. And like Ashley says at the very top, this was the very first comment on that post. These can't be the marriages that single women are supposed to die from envy over. People want women to get married all the time. But these dudes are the worst PR. They are the worst examples. Like, why would a woman want to give up her life as it is right now for these dudes that don't even pay attention to their own kids? They don't see the mess on the floor. They don't see that the dishes need to be washed. They just get to eat, put their stuff down, go sit back down. They are having a really good time. And so that's why even when some women say, I would have a baby if I can be the dad, the dads, they get to pop in, take some pictures every now and then, but they don't have to worry about the day-to-day, the hour-to-hour, the blow-up poops, all of that. They don't have to check in. And so this is the reason why the Gen Zers, that's the reason why the Gen Z women are like, nope, kids and marriage way down on the list. But these dudes want these babies. They want marriage because it keeps them attached to a woman that will do all of these things like cooking, cleaning, going to the grocery store, doing the admin and all of that, setting up the schedule, all of that. They want access. They just don't want to do the work. The comments, so this was a Facebook post. The comments on the post are very, very telling. And I'm just going to fill up a whole video speaking on women and what they have gone through with these husbands and these dads that can opt in, opt out, ignore, or whatever. Jillian said, when I set out clothes for my 3-month-old and my 2-year-old, he dressed the 2-year-old in the baby's clothes. Why? Like, you can't see that this size is much bigger or much smaller than what in the world? Nora says, yeah, when he only dressed himself and proudly announced, ready to go, I was still packing the diaper bag, snacks, and bottles. Can I trust him to pack the diaper bag instead? Nope. Anika says, you forgot to do his hair. Oh, my bad. I was busy getting myself and both of them ready and laid out your outfit. You can go do his dang hair. So the women have to be blamed somewhere. So Fatima, she's doing what is an obligation. We have to have one of these comments. Fatima says, why do y'all marry these men that act helpless and selfish? No matter what, women will do this. Women do this, men do this. Women will blame a woman for a man's behavior or a man's lack of behavior, a man's lack of action. A woman has to do this. She has to. So we had to read this one. And then we have Lily right here. So these women are saying, all of the things that their husbands lack. And then we have Lily that has to say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that my husband doesn't do that. She says, let me go hug my partner dearly and give him some extra love. Because after this comment, I realize he's such a good dad to my own kids and the one that we have together. He never mixes their clothes up like that, as well as feeds, bathes him, and all the same thing a mother does, he does. I'ma pamper him as a thank you. I don't know if this is really particularly necessary, but good for you, Lily. Yes, please go hug that man. Now we got Renee. Renee says, not the first time I realized it, but the first time I spoke up. We were planning a day trip and my husband complained that he always had to wait on me. I reminded him that he gets himself ready. I get everyone else. I packed jackets, snacks, drinks, put the dog out, locked all the doors, and shut off the lights while he was sitting impatiently behind the wheel. Katie says to her, also, just him getting up and going into bed. Meanwhile, I'm closing or locking the doors, turning off lights, feeding the cat, etc. And then him complaining because I woke him up after I did all that and finally got into bed. This is the mental load. These two comments right here. This is the mental load that women talk about, because getting up and going somewhere, cool. We had somewhere to be. But to get to that point, what are all of the steps that had to happen? If it's someplace that you don't usually go to, what did you have to move around? If it's an appointment, what did you have to cancel? There are so many things that go into the day-to-day that if a woman were to pull herself out of the situation, a dude would not be able to take her place. But if the man was no longer there, her life will go on perfectly fine. She might need some extra money or something, but her life might actually get a little bit busy. A little less stressful, because she wouldn't have to worry about the dude. Women do so much. Just these two comments right here really speak to all of the extra stuff that goes into just getting out of the house. Taylor says, oh my God, why do men do that? It's like every man on earth. They grab their wallet and keys, sometimes even forget those, and walk out the house full of lights still on, cats unfed, and likely poorly dressed for the current weather happening. Then we got Julie says, not every man, but sadly too many. My husband will pack snacks for short errands or even rain gear, even though chances of rain are low, and we will spend only a few minutes outdoors. He always closes the windows and checks the stove. I am actually often telling him that it's too much and we could just leave empty-handed. He says, you never know what can happen and it's better to be prepared. I'm just one to think everyone will be just fine, a bit hungry or a bit wet, and I'm the one who always thinks of sunscreen or water. We complement each other well, and it is important to compliment. It's like, sometimes you have to, no, not even sometimes. You have to be able to rely on that other person. And I am glad that there are some dudes that are out here that are checking the stove and making sure that the car is locked or making sure that the doors are locked or everything. Because these other dudes, I don't know. Like I said, a lot of these men are terrible PR for marriage. So this one is terrible, but I wanted to get to this. Julie says, when my twin asked my husband at the time how his life has changed since having a baby, he said his life had not changed at all. We were separated by her first birthday. I asked him to do bath and bedtime routine one night, since he had the day off and hadn't done it in months. He replied, no. I grabbed my keys and left. A lot of the time, their lives do not change. They get to go to work and come back. They get to go spend hours upon hours at the gym. And then your life completely changes. You don't have as much time. You can't get to the gym as much as possible. You don't have as much time for self-care and all of that. And then when you start looking all raggedy and jacked up, then he'll start looking at you like, you just really let yourself go. You let yourself go because you don't have time. And that's the thing, is like there's only so much time available, so much energy available. So it's just really, that's just how it is. And that's the reason why you see so many of these women glow up after a divorce because they have more time and energy, especially if they have to split custody. All right, Kayla says, was he one of those the divorce came out of nowhere guys? Brittany says, same thing happened to me, girly, exact same thing. I was sick in bed, deathly ill. I asked him to bathe our child. Mind you, our son was a little over 1 year old and he'd never given him a bath. And he threw an absolute fit talking about, I just sat down to play the game. Sorry, what? Mind you, I worked and he didn't. I left, sick and everything. Been separated ever since. Some of these dudes deserve to be lonelier. The loneliness epidemic needs to be a mandemic. They need to be lonelier all over the place. They do not deserve a wife. They don't deserve to have a family with them. And then we'll end with Shanitha. Shanitha saying, I'm glad I don't have any children. A response like that would have had me struggling mightily to not be violent towards him. I'm going to end it there. Join the conversation. Let me know what you think about all of this. I saw this in the marriage subreddit. This person asked the question, would you marry your spouse? Knowing everything you know now, if you could go back before you got married, would you still marry your spouse? I'm so curious, especially those of you who have been together for 10, 15, 20 years or more. So I saw this and I did preview that I was going to discuss this in the first video that I did, but let's talk about it. The comments are all over the place. Off bat, off rip, Divine Brat says no. Like, she don't qualify it or nothing. Absolutely not again. These people do ask her why she doesn't come back and say anything. The answer is just no. And then Can Do This Thing says, best decision in my life, so yes, would marry him again. Step Back says 100%, been together 8 years, and honestly, she's still my favorite person to hang out with. Like, yeah, marriages work and we've had our moments, but I can't imagine doing life with anyone else. I Like Word says, that's so sweet. Miserable 88 says, wow, these results are surprising to me. Marriage is harder and more challenging than I ever thought. Life throws major curveballs. That said, it's also incredibly comforting and brings me so much joy and peace. We just celebrated our 11th wedding anniversary. Yes, I would absolutely choose him again. My best advice is just to keep communicating and loving each other, even when you don't agree on things. Because communication is the issue. That's just very simple. That's just the issue. Or it could also be the other person's not listening. Anyways, so I caught these first few screenshots really early on when there was only 137 comments. I went back to it to gather a few more comments. Let's look at them. And like I said, it's a mixed bag. Some people say yes, some people say no, but I'm just going to read to you what they told us. So we already saw Can Do This Thing. But Chico Legume says, I'd marry him sooner had I known how in love I'd still be today. He's my best friend. I won the lottery. Strange Coast says, I really feel the same. My husband definitely stresses me out and frustrates me sometimes, but I would never ever trade him for anyone. I couldn't fathom it. I am Stan Housen. Did he really put his whole name in there? That's weird. He says, my wife and I have gone through a lot, tons I would do differently, but I would marry her again in a heartbeat. She's my favorite person. I'm in awe that I get to spend my life with her. Longstock says, this is so nice to read. Happy for both of you. Critter Bob says, today is our 23rd anniversary. There was a time that my answer would have been no, and he knows that. We've worked through a lot in therapy over the years, and today I would say yes. Not only because I would never want to know my life without our children, but because my husband is a great man who has been loyal, an amazing provider, and always willing to do better, and I love him. I just didn't always like him prior to therapy. Lang Wade says, married 5 years. Absolutely not. Can't leave as I couldn't bear not to see my daughter every day. Carell says, same as me. If I could go back, I'd run away as fast as possible. But on the other hand, then I wouldn't have my daughters. I want to quit out so damn badly. This weekend especially, as I'm just so tired. But I don't want to not see my 2 young girls every single day. They are my world, and I'll stick around for the verbal abuse, emotional abuse, narcissism, constant moaning and aggression, even offer up my future stability for them. But I don't know if she'll stick around in kind. I doubt that I'll get the kids if we split. Hugh Ruilin says, absolutely not. I've meditated with the idea of going back in time to forgive myself for making the mistake of ignoring my intuition. Never again. Random Thought says, no. Why? Because the point of marriage is to have a partner, not do the entire thing on your own. Hurry Up and Wait says, absolutely. 5 years in and would choose him over and over again. I'll check back in on year 10. Crypto Master at the bottom says 25 years together and 100% yes. Keep It 100 says no. Junie Berrybug says yes, married 8 years. Alarmed Kick says, if I knew what I know today about my husband, I would never have said I do. Some people think there's a match for everybody out there. Maybe there is, but it's not always that you need that match. I should have thought things out before I said I do, because now I wanted a divorce, not just because of what he has done not because of what he has done, but of who he is. It's not the man I thought I wanted to be with forever. Just a little secret, he stole jewelry from a best friend of mine and made it sound like it was something great that he had done. I recommended him for doing it. And if we ever told that person, he would put him in jail. But then he would probably take my car from me because I co-signed for my car, and I don't want him to do that. But I feel I need to be fair and honest, and this is chewing away at my heart because I love my husband, but I also love my friend. What do I do? You're going to have to buy your friend another piece of jewelry? I don't know. But this person at the bottom says, my horrible advice, buy a replacement necklace for your friend if he or she has noticed it's gone, and tell her you felt bad for him or her. Put your foot down with your husband and say something like, this can never happen again. Throw the original necklace away. All right, I'm going to end it with this one. Y'all go ahead and tap in. Like I said, all of these were kind of all over the place. Some people are having a good experience with marriage. Some people are not. But that also speaks to the divorce rates. It also speaks to why some people are just opting out of relationships altogether. But I do want to know what you think about all of this. So tap in and let me know your thoughts.
Patriarchy wants women to suffer in the name of love. They have beautifully packed this lie, a lie designed to make women sacrifice, shrink ourselves so men can always stay in power and make the rules. First, I gotta say, love is beautiful. Romantic love is beautiful. The issue is how society pushes the different narratives onto men and women, and how we condition women to weaken ourselves through self-deception. So starting strong is women stopping her life for a man. Okay, give up her career, her education, her hobbies, her life for a man. Why is the world still unfriendly to women? Because the people at the top make the rules are men. When a woman gets married or have children, her career takes a sharp decline. But with all the women pouring all the energy into supporting their husbands, men rising up to top, make the rules by men for men, do you think they give a shite about women's struggles? And number two, patriarchy brainwashes women to lower our standards and call it love. If you dare to ask something, set a strong boundary, you're a gold digger, you're commodifying yourself, you don't understand true love. Every man knows very well that being with a woman comes at a cost. Almost every relationship is transactional, people just don't want to admit it. That kind of unconditional love only exists between a mother and her children. Some men wants to enjoy a woman's presence, energy, her domestic, emotional labor for free, but don't want to give anything in return. So they will belittle, manipulate, guilt trip women to secure a low-cost relationship. And number three is from a very young age, we have seen too many films and stories glorify the sacrifice for love. Like Ariel from Little Mermaid, she gave up her voice, her most precious asset, for a man she barely knew. Her pain and sacrifice are seriously downplayed. So that message is very dangerous to the young girls. You giving up your identity, your agency for a man is romantic and worth it. So what does this years of programming do to women? Is too many women shrink ourselves in relationship thinking, I'm doing this for us. At the end, you will realize there was never us, it was only you. You are the one who's carrying the pain and paying all the cost. So please do not settle, do not apologize for having strong standards. This will help you filter out people that are not aligned with you. Trust me, the right people will respect you even more for having strong standards.